My name is Brianna Whitmore. I'm 34 years old, a payroll manager living in Columbus, Ohio, and for most of my adult life, I thought being the responsible daughter was something to be proud of. I was the one who remembered birthdays, paid attention to doctor's appointments, fixed problems before anyone else even noticed them, and quietly helped my parents whenever money got tight. My younger brother, Tyler, was different. He was charming, impulsive, and always seemed to be one bad decision away from another crisis. And somehow, no matter what happened, my parents always chose him. I used to tell myself that was just what families did. Then one winter, I realized something that changed me forever. My parents didn't just favor my brother. They had built their entire life around the assumption that I would always rescue them. For years, I paid their electric bill when they were short. I covered their property taxes once when Dad said a business payment was late. I paid for Mom's dental work. I even put their home insurance on automatic payment because Mom told me she was overwhelmed and afraid they might forget it. I never kept track of every dollar. They were my parents. I didn't want gratitude. I just wanted to feel like I mattered to them. Tyler, meanwhile, had started a landscaping business that kept collapsing and restarting. Every few months there was another emergency. His truck needed repairs. His rent was overdue. He had a tax problem. He needed money for equipment. And every time, my parents somehow found a way to help him. One evening, I went to my parents' house for dinner. Tyler was there too. Dad was unusually quiet. Mom kept looking at Tyler. Finally, Dad cleared his throat. "Brianna, we need to talk about the house." I immediately felt uneasy. "What about it?" Dad looked at Tyler. Then he looked back at me. "We've decided to transfer the house to Tyler." For a second, I actually laughed. Not because it was funny. Because I couldn't understand what I had just heard. "The house." Mom nodded. "Tyler needs stability. He's trying to get his business back on its feet." I stared at them. "Okay, and what about everything I've been paying?" Dad frowned. "What does that have to do with this?" I felt something inside me crack. "I've been paying your bills for years." Mom's expression hardened. "And we're grateful." "No," I said quietly, "you aren't." Nobody spoke. I looked at Tyler. He wouldn't even meet my eyes. Then Dad said the sentence I would remember for the rest of my life. "You're doing fine, Brianna. Tyler needs us more." I went home that night and cried until I had a headache. But the next morning I stopped crying. I started looking at my bank statements. For the first time I added everything. Electricity, insurance, property taxes, medical expenses, home repairs, groceries. It wasn't a few $1,000s. It was more than $38,000 over several years. I stared at the number on my laptop. Then I realized something even worse. My parents weren't struggling because they had no money. They were struggling because their money was being redirected toward Tyler. And I had been quietly filling the hole. That was the moment I decided I was done. I didn't threaten them. I didn't scream. I didn't demand the house. I simply cancelled every automatic payment connected to their accounts. The next morning, Mum called. "Brianna, the electricity company says the payment didn't go through." I cancelled it. There was a long silence. "What?" "I won't be paying your bills anymore." Mum's voice immediately changed. "How can you do this to us?" I closed my eyes. "How could you choose Tyler after everything I've done?" She became defensive. "He's your brother. So am I your daughter." She hung up. 3 days later, Dad called. "This is childish." "No, what's childish is expecting one child to financially support the entire family while rewarding another. You don't understand what family means." I almost laughed. I understand it perfectly now. Then I hung up. I thought that would be the end of it. It wasn't. 2 weeks later, Mom called in tears. Their property tax payment was overdue. I told her to contact the county and arrange a payment plan. She said they couldn't afford it. I reminded her that Tyler now owned the house. She went silent. Then she said, "We thought you'd help." That sentence hurt more than anything else. Not because they needed help. Because they expected it. I started rebuilding my own life. I opened a separate savings account. I paid off a credit card. I started taking weekend trips. I bought furniture I had been putting off for years. And slowly I stopped feeling guilty. Then one Friday afternoon, I received an unexpected call from a woman named Karen. She introduced herself as a real estate attorney. She said she was handling paperwork connected to my parents' house. I immediately became suspicious. "Why are you calling me?" She hesitated. "Because your name appears on one of the older documents." My heart started beating faster. I told her I had never owned the house. She explained that years earlier, when my parents refinanced the mortgage, I had been listed as a financial contributor because I had helped make several large payments. But there was something else. My parents had apparently signed a document acknowledging that I had contributed money toward the property with the understanding that it would be repaid if the house was sold or transferred. I had completely forgotten about it. Karen emailed me a copy. I read it twice, then a third time. The agreement wasn't a formal ownership document, but it was legitimate financial documentation. And it changed everything. I didn't rush to court. I didn't threaten my parents. I took the paperwork to an attorney and showed him my bank records. He explained that I might have a valid claim, depending on the exact terms and circumstances. More importantly, he told me something that made me realize how badly my parents had underestimated me. "Don't contact them about this yet," he said. "Let the documents speak for themselves." So I waited. A month later, my parents announced that Tyler was selling the house. Apparently, he wanted to use the money to pay off his business debts. Mom called me expecting congratulations. Instead, I asked one question. Did Tyler know about my agreement? She didn't answer. That silence told me everything. The closing was scheduled for the following week. I contacted my attorney. He formally notified the relevant parties that I had a documented financial interest that needed to be addressed before the transaction could proceed. The sale was temporarily delayed while the paperwork was reviewed. That's when Tyler finally called me. "You've got to be kidding me." "No, you can't do this. I'm not doing anything to you. Tyler, you're stopping the sale. I'm protecting my financial rights." He started yelling. "You've always been jealous of me." I sat quietly on my couch. Then I said, "You got the house." He went silent. "You got Mom and Dad's money, you got their support, you got everything you asked for." I paused. All I ever wanted was to stop being treated like the family bank. He hung up. A few days later, the truth came out. My parents had never told Tyler about the agreement. They had also never told him that several of the payments I had made were directly connected to the property. They had assumed I would never challenge them. They had assumed I would stay quiet. They were wrong. The final settlement wasn't dramatic. There was no courtroom screaming. No police. No revenge fantasy. The house sale went forward after the financial claims were resolved, and I received a negotiated amount that reflected a portion of the documented contributions I had made. It wasn't a fortune. But that wasn't what mattered. What mattered was that, for once, my parents couldn't simply erase what I had sacrificed. A week after everything was settled, Dad asked me to meet him. We sat in a small coffee shop. He looked older than I remembered. I made a mistake, he said. I waited. I thought because you were stronger, you needed us less. I looked at him. Being strong doesn't mean I don't need to be loved. His eyes filled with tears. I know. Mom eventually apologized too. Tyler never did. And strangely, that stopped bothering me. Because I had finally learned something I should have understood years earlier. Sometimes people don't value what you give them because they've become comfortable receiving it. The moment you stop giving, they don't always miss you. They miss what you provided. For the first time in my life, I stopped measuring my worth by how useful I was to my family. I didn't stop loving my parents. I simply stopped financing their choices. And that was the part they never expected. My revenge wasn't taking their house. It wasn't humiliating Tyler. It wasn't making them suffer. My revenge was becoming financially independent, emotionally free, and completely unwilling to beg for a place at a table where I had spent years paying for everyone else's meal. I still talk to my parents. But now, when they ask me for money, I don't feel guilty saying no. And when I look back at that night when Dad told me Tyler needed them more, I realize he was right about one thing. Tyler did need them. But I needed something too. I needed to finally choose myself. And sometimes, the strongest revenge isn't making the people who hurt you regret losing you. It's realizing you were never supposed to spend your whole life trying to earn their love in the first place.